Hello everyone, we are going to learn the course Object Oriented Programming. Before we go into further details, we first have to learn what are the basic concepts of Object Oriented Programming. Object Oriented Programming, the first basic concept we are going to learn is abstraction, which otherwise is called data hiding. Data hiding means showing only necessary details to the outside world. The complexity of those functionalities and data is hidden from the outside world. So that is why it's called data abstraction. After abstraction, the next important concept we are going to learn is encapsulation. Encapsulation is otherwise called binding of data and its properties together. For the best example is the class of a C++ program, which we'll be learning in the further slides. So encapsulation binds together data and its properties into a single block. So that's example is like your body is binding the organs and its functionality inside into a single block with the help of your skin. So that is called encapsulation. The next concept that we'll be learning here is polymorphism. Poly means many, morphism means forms. So when a concept is exhibiting different forms, it is called polymorphism. When, for example, if you have an operator which helps you in adding two values, and as well as in other occasions it is used for concatenating two strings. In that case, that operator is exhibiting polymorphism. That means one operator performing in different way at different occasion. Not only for operator, it can be also used for functions. A function with similar names, but the the property or the functionality might be different. For example, your hands is not manufactured for walking, but if you use your hands to walk, it's called polymorphism. That's an example of overloading. Another example is when functions with similar signatures but still exhibit different properties is called overriding. For example, your legs can be used for walking as well as jumping. So that is exhibiting a polymorphism called overriding. So polymorphism in other way can be said as exhibiting multiple forms. To summarize, object oriented programming gives you different features such as abstraction, encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. Abstraction, as I said, is data hiding. Encapsulation is binding of data and its properties together, whereas inheritance means reusing a particular property or data which is present in the parent class instead of rewriting it again to avoid for errors. And then polymorphism means exhibiting multiple forms at different occasions. So these are the important features or the four pillars of object oriented programming. Now to summarize, the difference between procedural oriented programming and object oriented programming. A procedure oriented programming focuses more on procedures or functions. It is a top down approach where more focus is given to different functions, and adding data or functionality is going to be a difficult task. And procedural oriented programming doesn't provide the features specified earlier. The example of a procedure oriented programming is C program. Whereas object oriented programming, a more emphasis is put on objects. it is a bottom-up approach. Adding of data and functionality is going to be easier compared to procedure-oriented programming, and it is used in real-world programming. The best example is C++ and Java. Next, we'll be learning what a class is. A class is considered as a blueprint of the object, or it is a best example of encapsulation, wherein a class contains or binds data and its properties together. So, objects created will be representing a class, means the objects will use the properties and data of the class. S- So, in short, a class is a blueprint for the object. Like in, you have a, a plan of your house, but you can use the same plan for creating different kinds of houses. So, that is an example of a class. Now, how to define a class in C++? C++ supports object-oriented programming style. So, in to define a class in C++, class in lowercase is going to be specified followed by a class name. A class is a keyword and class name is going to be an identifier. So, when you are giving a class a name, it should follow all the rules of the identifier. The class comprises data and its functionalities within a set of curly braces followed by a semicolon. So here you can see an example of class. A class keyword is followed by the name of the class called test. The class test contains data members and member functions. Data members represents data and member functions represents the functionalities or property. The data member and member functions are specified with the help of access modifiers, which is the best example of abstraction or data hiding. And class is an example of encapsulation. Now, data members are specified using data types, which represents what kind of data are you going to store in the given identifier. So there are two kinds of data types, fundamental data types and derived data types. Fundamental data types are like integer, character, float, and derived data types are data types which are derived from fundamental data types. So they are used to represent data inside as data members. A data type, here you can see the different kinds, examples of fundamental data types that can be represented, and derived data type will be taken in detail in the coming lectures. Here in the int represents integer, float represents float, and double represents floating point numbers, char represents characters, and bool represents boolean values. Functions will be learned in the coming lectures in detail. They are used to specify functions inside a class. Next, we are going to learn access modifiers in detail. Access modifiers specify the scope of accessibility of data members and member functions. That means to which extent it is accessible inside the class and outside the class by other members of the class or by the data outside the class. So there are three kinds of access specifiers: public, private, and protected. Public access specifiers are when you specify data or data members inside the class using the keyword public. That means that data member or member function can be accessed outside the class. When you say private, The data can be only accessed by the members of the class. If you try to access it outside the class, it is going to drop you a compile time error. So private data provides security. It only gives access to the members of the class, and to access a private member, it should be accessed through the members of the class. And by default, a class is going to be private if you do not explicitly specify the access modifiers inside the class. Protected is used when you are using the concept called inheritance. Inheritance means accessing data and its properties in the subclass. That means you have a class which contains data and its properties. Then you create another class which is going to be dependent on the parent class. Then you can use a protected as an access modifier so that it provides access to the subclass, all the data and the properties available inside the parent class. In short, it is similar to private access specifiers. That means the data and the properties specified within the class will be only accessed by the members of the class. And how is it different from private? Is that other than the members of the class, even the members of the subclass or child class can access it without dropping an error. So that is why it's protected, and it's used when you want to use inheritance in your programming. So example given here is, if class A is a parent class and class B is a subclass, if you specify the members of the class A as protected, then it is accessible by class B since it's a child class of class A. But any other class other than the child class cannot access the members of the class A. Next, we are going to learn objects. If I hope class is clear to you all, class means a blueprint of the object. Class specifies data members and member functions with the help of access modifiers. There are three kinds of access modifiers we've learned so far: public, private, and protected. Public means it can be accessed by anybody inside or outside the class, whereas private means it can be accessed only by the members of the class, and protected means it can be accessed by the members as well as the members of the subclass. So going forward, we are going to learn objects. In order to use the contents of your class, you have to create objects. So objects are representation of your class. You can create any number of objects for a particular class, and each object is going to be unique from one another. So objects are representations of a class. To specify an object, you have to first write the class name followed by the object name. Object name will be an identifier, so it will follow all the rules of the identifier. So the syntax is going to be class name followed by the object name followed by a semicolon. Make it more understandable, I've given an example here. Here, suppose we have a class called library. So library is going to encapsulate the data and its behavior. So the data is going to be books, newspaper, uh, CDs, and so on, whereas behavior is going to be read, write, etc. When books can be accessed by the members of the library, so it can be considered as private, whereas newspaper can be read by in everyone even though they are not members of the library, so it can be considered as public. The date member functions like read and write. Reading is allowed inside the library, so it's public, but book is issued only to the members or book is issued only by the librarian, so it's going to be private. Now, who is going to use the data and its properties? It's going to be a girl who is going to be the object. And the girl reading the book is an example of object using the data members and the member functions. Now, how to access the data member or member function in C++? As you all know, to access the contents of the class, you have to create objects. Now, after creating objects, how will you access the members of the class? You're going to use it with the help of dot operator. But remember, private members can only be accessed within the class. It cannot be accessed outside the class. You can work on the given set of examples to make yourself more familiar with what is a class and how to create class and its objects. In order to implement what we have learned so far, we have to know the C++ program structure. So the program structure specified here, you can see it starts with a header file. So the header file here included is IO stream, which stands for input output stream. It contains all the input and output functionalities required in your program. It's a library function, that means it's already available in C++ library. Namespace is supposed to be the scope or the directory wherein the scope of identifier functions of the header files are specified. So it's the IOStream is available in the namespace std. Then main, every program contains a main function. It main function is from where your program starts executing one line after the other. The main doesn't return anything. So since we have specified int main, it's expecting to return an integer value. Since it doesn't return anything, we have returned a 0, which represents null. Then the main function contains set of statements which has to be executed one after the other. So here as an example, a printing statement cout which prints hello world to the console has been written. So as I've explained earlier, header files, there are several header files in C++, and here IOStream is a header file which provides its input output streams. So header file instructs the compiler to include all the functions specified in that particular file, and all header files are specified at the beginning of your program. So as namespace, as I told you all, it is used to collect the identifiers used for that class, object and variables. So it's a declarative region that provides a scope of the identifiers, or you can use it with the help specifying using namespace, example using namespace std, or you can use a scope resolution operator if you do not specify it at the beginning. So main function, there should be one main function for every program, and the program starts executing from the main program line by line. So the curly braces denote the opening and closing of a function or statement respectively. So here it contains a print statement cout, which is going to print a hello world to the output console. Statement helps to display the message on the screen. So here we use the cout function to do the functionality of printing it, and end L is used for instructing the compiler to move to the new line. Return 0 to specify that the main function returns a null value. As you can see, this is an example of a class using the main function. So a class called example, in which you have data member integer a, and in the int main function you're creating an object of the class example, and to access the data member, which is specified as public, can be accessed outside the class. So to access it, you have to use object dot the variable name, which is a, equal to 5, means it's assigning the value 5 to the variable or data member a using the object. And you can print the value of the object using cout, and since main returns a null value, return 0. To try out the concepts learned so far, you can use an Eclipse IDE to do hands-on practice on C++. Create Create a new C++ project in your Eclipse using the given um, image will help you to create one project. Once you see this screen, you will know how to create your own C++ project in the Eclipse IDE. Follow the steps. Your project will be created in such a way you can see it in the IDE. This is the same example which I've explained earlier, creating a class called example. Then you can create a public member called x of integer type, private member called y, which is of float type, and a date member function which is of public type. And the member function is a display function which is going to display the y value. Whereas inside the main, you're going to create an object for the class created, and the object is going to call the x data member. Since it is public, you can assign a value inside the main. It can be accessed outside the class and you can display it there. Whereas since y is a private data member, it cannot be accessed directly inside the main. If accessed, it will give you errors. To access the y value, you have to access it through the members of the class. Since display is a member of the class, it can access the y value. So y is given the value 2 and it's printed inside display. Now display is public, so it can be accessed outside the class. So you can call the display function using your object inside the main function. Once your program is ready, build your program and build your program to find for compile time errors. After building your program, run your program to see your output. So this is going to be the output as per the program written inside. So you can see both the print statements. One is printing the public value inside the main and another is printing the private value inside a member function specified inside the class. Again, the member function is public. That is why it has been able to call it inside main function. So next few slides we'll be learning how to create member functions and what member functions are. So I hope you all have understood how to create a class, how to create objects, and how to use the members of the class using objects. Next, we'll learn more in detail what member functions are. So member functions are a set of functions. So what is a function? A function is a block of code that performs a specific task. There are two kinds of functions: standard library function and user defined function. Standard library functions are functions those are already available in C++, whereas user defined functions are functions which you are going to create. So as we know, user defined functions are functions wherein the programmer can define their own function or create their own function. So it is created to perform a specific task. Like in, if you're going to create a program for calculator, user defined functions can be a addition add function, a subtract function, a division function, so on, which does the specific task as per their rules. So here you will learn how to declare a function. A function syntax is given as, first you will write the return type of the function, depends on what kind of data it is going to return, and then followed by the function name. It's again an identifier. It has to follow the rules of the identifier, then followed by a set of bracket which comprises set of parameters, where parameter, it can have parameters or it can have more than one parameter based on the type of function it is. The function comprises set of statement which is enclosed in a set of curly braces. So as seen example in the previous slide, we learned how to create a function called greet. Now how to use it in your main program, you're going to call it using the function call procedure, call the function name followed by empty bracket semicolon. The bracket is empty here because the function in the previous example did not carry any parameters. So here this is how the function executes. That is, you have created a function called greet and it is being called inside the main function. Now let's see how we can create it inside an Eclipse program, wherein if you are going to create a class called calculator, uh, and you're going to use data members a b, which is going to store two values respectively, and result to store the resultant value. So let that be data member, which is specified private here, and under the public access modifier we have specified a function which doesn't have any parameter inside, so or arguments. Example is void sum. Here we have written it's supposed to add two values. So inside the definition of the function we have written two statements which is going to accept values from the user, and it's going to add two values using the plus operator and store it in the result data, and the result is going to be printed inside the function. Since it's not returning anything outside the function, the return type is going to be void. As you can see now, once the class calculator is ready, you can create object. In order to use the class, you as we know, the execution starts from the main function. You have to create objects of the class called calculator. So an object called O is being created and the object is used to call the function sum. And since sum is the member of the class called calculator, it can access the private members A, B and result of the class calculator. So how to call the function inside the main object dot the function name followed by empty bracket, because the function defined inside the class doesn't have any arguments specified inside the bracket. So you can build and run your program to find for errors, and you can see how the output and the input is handled by your console to get the desired output. So I hope so far it is clear for all. If any doubts, please specify.